Hey, everybody. Welcome to the March 2021 edition of the meeting of the Baton Rouge Astronomical Society. Our guest speaker tonight is going to be Steven Tilley. He's going to be updating us on his work with the near-Earth objects and asteroids, which is something that he does for fun, and he's really pretty good at it. It should be an entertaining time. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all for coming.
You okay, Stephen?
I'm trying to to share my screen, my screen, so I can show the presentation.
Okay, yeah, it's the share your screen and then go to the either the application window or the entire screen, depending on what.
All right. Okay. The presentation is. Let me make sure I go to the beginning. The use and find orb for orbit determination, checking, recovery, and finding risk corridors. Okay. So what is find orb? The find orb is used. Orbit determination. It does a complex math where you don't have to. It was authored by Bill Gray of Project Pluto. It's a really helpful individual. It is licensed as a free license, and it reads a variety of formats of software. I'm going to show the format we have. One format is a standard 80-column format. Can you see this list of looks like 80 columns of files?
It looks like you've dropped back to the.
Yeah, I see. I'm gonna make sure you can see the notepad. You see notepad?
No, you've gone back to the title screen for the app, whatever it is.
Okay. Let's see if I can try share screen again.
You might try just sharing if you're using the Google app, you might try sharing just the tab and see how that works.
I'm trying to show, I could be switching back and forth. Okay.
Then you might want to do the share full screen and then Alt tab it if you're using Windows. That might work.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the your entire screen. All right. Now I think I see it's a picture in pictures. I think it's working now. So what is final work? It was offered by, and it uses different formats. It uses the A column. And it uses formats. Then it also uses what's the new format, which is better because the 80 column format don't have as much data, so it's more like the astronomy data change standards. Next generation has a bunch more. It can be either an XML markup or a pipe separated format. And another format that's used by the European, and also mixes stuff quite well. So This is the A column format. If you can see it, and we're going to move to the next. And then this form was what's observation, and for an application, you get the location where it's in the sky, the location of where you're observing, in the time. Since you know those things, it's like therefore you find orbit, or you find out what orbit will match, will match the orbits. And each observation will have residuals. So what you want to do is you want to find out which one, and some of the observations will have to be, then there's many, and every observatory has a code. We are 747. And the longer the orbits, the better. And then we get into designations. Every observation must have a designation. You just can't call it. And it must be. And so, the example, physical designations is objects that have 2 nights of observations. Then over time, as you get more observations, you can you can actually say that one object is actually another object. And then you have a you also have and then it's also the pack. You have both the pack test form of the designation, because since you have the A column, normal designations are a little bit too long and won't fit. And then any object that's been they may only have 1 hour observations, and so it'll be in an isolated tracklet file. And any object that's new that may be an NEO, they put the NEOC. One of the things about Firewall is you used to just wait 1 second. I'm going to do a check. Although I'm still here, I'm going to be in 2 places. There's going to be 2 of me. One's going to be checking what's happening. All right. Now that's better. So what you do is you can use it for checking the observations. Here's one of the actual. Let's see. Switch. Over to the final application. All right, now this is the actual interface of the application. You see, it has a bunch of dials for turbos where you switch on and off, and then it has the orbital elements, and then you have the observations, and has the quality of the, and then you can do ephemerides in Primrod where you can actually see on what can actually see where it'll be, and we're going to be using to see where Apocalypse is going to be around the big close approach. It runs like so. It's going to take a while for it to do the math for us, and as it's doing it, it's going to should if that's if it's actually showing the full thing. Okay. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna have to go to the. Okay. It creates a file that looks like this. It shows all of the observations that use to fit the orbit, like so, which is for can be quite mundane. It goes down, like so, and then it has it where it will actually be each time 15-minute increments. So you have the date, the time, and that's in UT, and then the magnitude. But unfortunately, it's going to leave our sky before it gets to the bright as it can be. It'll be a nice binocular object, unless you probably move elsewhere before then where it'll be brighter. But that's that's what it does. But it fits. But the software can do also. The software has a lot of other things. You can also use it for other things, which is you can do it for impact prediction, or you can do it for you can also do it for checking quality of orbit, like how good the orbit is, and then if it's bad, you find out why the observation is bad. Is the timing off? Did you use the wrong NBC code? Because if you use a bunch of observatories, you may have forgotten to check. And that's why I always figure it's a good thing to triple check and check with fine orbs so you don't make an embarrassing mistake and have stuff thrown out. But another thing you can do with fine orb is you can do recovery. What you do is you take the observations of something that's not been seen in the wall, and you do what's called a Monte Carlo button, where it's also used for other things. And then the Monte Carlo, it does a lot of changes to the orbit. So you get a bunch of clones of the orbit that fits the observations, and then you bring a planetarium program. You'll see where in the sky it will be. So you see a big, and then that way you search the sky. But there's many times where you have this is the one that was big around election time. It was really dim, so looking for it would have been a fool's errand. But sometimes your stuff you can be quite close. But another thing you can do is do risk corridors, where you do Monte Carlo. I'm going to show you the video I have of doing that right now. Okay. So you load the observations into Fine Orb. And this is, they get loaded, you turn the perturbers, and you check the settings. Then you have to untoggle a couple observations. You do an autosolve where it gets a good fit. And you and this one is an impact one. It shows a particle impact location. Since the observation could be off, you do what's called you also filter out the bad observations with the outliers out. And then you do the Monte Carlo, which does a bunch of changes. And it sorts. At a point I cut out you can see the number jump up real quickly at one point, seeing but each one you see is changing. And you also see the actual impact locations are changing. You also see the number of ones that are made, orbits are made, and a number that impacts. Then after you do that, if the file it makes is called, it has the impact information. You move this to another program that's made by Bill Gray, of course. It is also the same license. Of course, you have to order it. There's a shipping cost. You need to put this file into, which displays instructions on how to read it. Because there are so many observations in those columns, this software uses columns. You need to remove excess columns. Like so. The columns. You delete it. You do a replace. You do the replace. Moves out. I also taken that extra line, demonstration line out because it will give a really unusual result of an impact where it won't dump along. You gotta remember about programs. Programs do exactly what you tell them. And then and this software has eclipse matches, but can also show impact locations. So you turn on. And you can also show times if you want, but that will be right there. And this one actually did impact. So if you go look at the infrasound report, and this is from Wikimedia's, where it shows the impact location is really close on. Okay, that's awesome. This is the one that would have impacted around election day. And it looks kind of funny, but that's because it's a line of imaginary impactors that's in the line and it's hitting a round ball that's tilted, which gives it what isomizes what gives it that it's not smiling at us. And here's another one that was in the news recently, but it was in a few years off, but this one would have been. But this one, they have enough data now to remove it. As you get more data, you have all these impactors. If any of them impact the orb, you have a non-zero chance of impact. So you get enough data where you can put them where they all impact, where you need to take action, or you get enough where the risk region is small enough where it falls out of the area of impact. You can also do what is called identifications. right here is, I'm going to expand it a little bit. Okay, these are two asteroids and the orbits look really close together. Really close together. And so, but what you actually do is you see, and the orbits are really similar. You can use fine orb where you can calculate orbits for both of them. You see the and your same epoch, and you see they're almost identical orbits. So then you can actually paste them into. There's also a web application for fine orb that will do the math for you. So you make sure I pull this up. On determinations, you and this one's a little bit different. You paste the observations here, and it will compute the orbit. And you see none of them are. Wait,
Did we lose him?
no, I'm still here. It's just something.
Oh, okay.
Didn't it go? I'm gonna try a different. I'm gonna do a. All right. I'm gonna go back to the offline portion. This one didn't quite go as. All right. Okay. All right. Now, paste the observations into the fine warp. I did a little edit with it all the. It's going to take a while, and it's English parts. And you see the observations. I did an edit where it all thinks it's actually zero, but you see all the residuals are all really close to one, which shows it's a good fit. If you were to, but if you ever were to see those residuals that those two columns, you see it over one or 10 or something, if it gets big enough, it will just reject them. You know it's not working right. So that's but then you can actually report. There's a format where you report them to the Mile Planet Channel, and when they get reported to the Mile Planet Channel, they they will publish them in the day update, and it shows that the two, and they also have your last name giving you credit for doing the. Of course, let me go back to the different. Wait. Now he keeps updating the software. It's going to the next generation. It's a different, but this is how it looks on most other softwares. Because the Windows program causes too much difficulty. There's a little bit of a different learning curve. But I'm about ready to move to the next topic on the update of this weekend. Which I think some of y'all that were here for the preview notice, but this is the project I've been pushing. This is a all sky camera without the dome, and it still has its shipping caps on it, but it's a little bit pricey, but a single guy with no kids can afford to drop $1,200 on a toy. Of course, if you probably do crowdfunding, and there's plans for another one of these toys for another place in Baton Rouge we're still working on, in the Baton Rouge metropolitan area. But I'd love to have a network around Louisiana I may start at one point start asking for crowdfunding. But here's it with the lens on it. Some people, what they do is at one point, they put a mask on it to keep too much sun because it will get hot, I'm told, during the summer, where there's only except for 2-inch radius around the camera, which is all covered to keep the sun and heat out. And this is a pole that's attached to my dad's garage. It's a nice pole, and here is the first sunset it saw as it goes down. And here's a couple more pictures of it during the day of the 7 cameras. And here's the first daylight. This is the first nighttime view, and you can probably make out, and that's probably a plane moving, but you can make out one of those constellations and that bright star. I guess most of y'all probably can make out what it is. And they also have an European network. It says I'm not sure, but the old network is exploring some of the same equipment, but it's a different group that's doing a lot more of the web interface. Well, here's one of my Facebook friends' camera. I don't know if I'll be able to get the same web application yet, but and here's a live view. And I don't think I can get the same application on the web yet. It may take some doing and some asking, but that's for a long time. And you can also have, let's see, whoops. We all know what that page is. Weather view of different cams all over. Then there's a fireball archive for different fireballs. And I think in one of those the other object is a probably internal reflection, which they, as I understand, they get. But I go see pretty much what my dream is, that we get a second one for Baton Rouge. I really was still working on all that detail. Astronomical. Get a second one for fabulous because they work better if you have at least two with more triangulation. But we move on to after we prove the concept, we reach out to the public for crowdfunding. And we probably start maybe reaching out to libraries and high schools. And you can save money if you get them unassembled where you don't have to assemble them. And I figure my thought is it will be a really good project for students. You put it together, and then after you put it together, the students put it together and they learn about putting it together and they mount it. And then you have multiple high school rivalries. Like so this school beat us knocked us out of the basketball team, and this knocked us out of the football. This one knocked us out but it saw this foul ball at this location. It's like it saw this, and this one saw it, and they all triangulate, and it'll probably be a good math lesson, I think, where you can teach math and triangulation, and they can probably get non-fireable events, I think, as maybe like the ISS would get picked up by it. So you can probably, I think there's an also live views of the weather around the state. I think it has many educational opportunities. And if we did crowdfunding, enough crowdfunding, and we really sell the idea, we can probably and people for the high school may be willing to help get one for the high school they graduate from. I figure it'll be a good project, in my opinion. And it's just something that it's still in the test phase, but I figure it'll be a good fun project. And I think it has. That's me, and we can reach out to the wider network with this one, in my opinion. Any questions? I'll see what again. Of course, this was the first run of this talk. I'll probably need to do some more work on it for future talk for other groups.
Hey, Steven, I've got one. In terms of numbers, how many people are on that network that you're wanting to connect with? Like just stateside. I'm assuming.
I don't know how many, but I got camera 114. Some of them are in Europe, so I don't know how many of them are actually here. But I really need to get more in contact with them now that it works, and see, and just asking the question, what would it take to get a network, what I really dream like that here? But it's going to get the second one, but I haven't really looked at all of the interface yet. Because all the stuff is probably a lot more of the capabilities and all what it's capable of. So it's just still about a learning curve. In some cases, but there's probably other project cams, like there's some cheaper cams, probably not with all the bells and whistles out there. So I think in some cases it's probably. But I think the dream has merit. It may just be an idle daydream, but I want to plant the seed in enough both where the dream becomes bigger than myself, and it may be more likely to become reality if I get the ball rolling, and then you will have, once the ball is rolling, you have a bit bigger.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, if we collaborated with more astronomy clubs as opposed to educational facilities, I'm sure, you know, there are a lot of educational facilities, whether it's high school or college level, that would love to have something like this and get involved. But then again, you know, clubs like ours and other clubs around the country, I'm sure would love to have this on site. I know the Shreveport Club was talking about setting one up. I mean, it's just, you know, we're fascinated by observing in this because we don't ever get to see somebody set this up, right? Like, how many of us know somebody that has one? I mean, we see the nice images, and Scott and I mean, we've got our little 224s that have the all sky cam.
Yeah, and you can actually, there's a setup on the Thingiverse to let yourself build a little dome camera to set it up, and it'll house a Raspberry Pi, and you can go download a computer program. And for the low cost of a 224, plus a Raspberry Pi, probably, I mean, I think the last model, the 3s, you can actually set one of these guys up for very much nothing. In the grand scheme of things, certainly not the $1,200 that Steven's looking for that. They're really, really nice models. But for the cheaper ones that you can just set up.
And I have a camera, so if somebody wants to, I'm not sure if there's a right camera. If somebody wants to try, I will hand them a Raspberry Pi and camera. And I'm not sure it's the right type of camera. That I think it's a fish eye, and I have a little dome-like cover, but
well, that's the thing is that all the ZWOs, at least all the planetary ZWOs come with at least a cheapo version of the fisheye lens that it screws into it. And, it's basically designed for people to test the camera. But yeah, it's advertised as an all sky cam. But yeah, and I've used it before. It works. It's just finding the right program to record the meteorites is a lot of a problem. And if you go to the ZWO website, they will have the lots of programs for download this for meteors, for tracking meteors. But all the programs they've got are very, very complicated, and they don't exactly work well. I've tried both of them, and there are only two. And one of them is kind of sketchy. I won't say which one, just so that to cover my base there.
Somebody wants a Raspberry Pi. I have a Raspberry Pi, which I will.
Actually, I'll take you up on that, Steven. I'll go ahead and try and download the software, and you can contact a library, and if you send them the STL file, they'll print it up for you, for cost, of course. But I mean, it shouldn't be more than, I'd say $20 tops to have this thing printed. And I'm not sure what the wait list is. It depends on the time of year and whatnot. The last time, I think the longest wait I had was for about a month and a half, and I made the mistake of trying to get something printed right before Makers Fair, and I have to believe that had some issue involved in the delay. But it was a very finely printed device. It doesn't do the acrylic dome, but they'll do the place that I found that has the file links out to where you can buy the acrylic dome for it. But it's a self-contained device once you've got the base printed. But yeah, I'll take you up on it. Give me that Raspberry Pi, and I'll start work on it. I'm not going to give out my 224 forever, but I'll at least leave it out for a night or two.
It's worth a test, and I mean, it's cheap systems out may improve the odds of getting this ball rolling.
Yeah, and it'd be worth trying out. And hey, if I like it, I'll just buy my own Raspberry Pi, and I may just use this as an excuse to upgrade to the new camera that they've got. And God knows I probably shouldn't, but I want to. And that's just so much of astronomy equipment, I hate to say. But that's how we always get our cool new toys, isn't it? All right. Any other questions for Steven? Do you want to talk about what's going on with the Meteor Cam, or his talk on how to use the software for locating and determining the trajectories of near-Earth objects and other asteroids?
Well, I'll confess some of this was kind of over my head. So I guess I'll limit myself to one question. How does, and I guess I'm showing my ignorance when I ask this, but how does Raspberry
That's how questions
Pi
work, Thomas.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? How does Raspberry Pi, what is its significance in using it with the Find Orb program?
I used it once. It took a long weekend to get it up. It took a long weekend. It took a lot of emails. I think it's probably better, and it took a. So it's just. I mean, I would use the software on a laptop because I know, or on a PC because I know it works. There's some other files. I'm going to give a link in the chat to the software right there. You check that's a link to the software. So it's really, he believes in simple web pages, and you look for it. If you look at his email address on the website, it looks real funny, but that's his way to keep fish shorts from snagging his email address and sending him email with scammers and all and spammers. So you can't, don't try to copy that email address. But it's pretty clever how he did it.
So in other words, Raspberry Pi isn't really necessary. You can do this on a computer or laptop, what have you.
But this is software but it takes a really steep learning curve. There's other files you need to download for other places for the work. First, what I would do is play around with the website, get the observations from the NBC, and then you paste them into the. I'm going to give you the link to that.
Okay.
And then that's
the Raspberry Pi. I was under the understanding was that was mainly a useful device for actually capturing the images and not processing the data. And the other program you were talking about seemed to be more about processing the data, unless I'm completely mistaken.
But we're on two different top.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Thomas wanted to know about the final warp. And final warp is more orbit. It takes. I mean, by the way, just read through his documentation. It is a lot. It's probably heavy reading, but then it is probably an also. I'll give you the link to the video I showed. This it has music, which I muted for the show, but I guess the music it's free music, so it is what you get, but it's not half bad, but I think it's a little bit loud now. What I'd like to make sure you turn down the earphones before you listen to the music, but that link's now in the chat. If you want it, go to the chat and snag it.
Yeah, I see the links.
Yes.
Hey, Steven, just a thought. I'd maybe pick your brain on this idea. You were talking about the learning curve. Do you think that a good way to get started in just observing might be to do the occultation logging first, just to familiarize yourself with the process of submitting data before diving into something like this?
I've never done occultation before. Occultation is a different. I think what you do is, let me see, is what you do is you use one software that I use for a lot is astronomical. It's what I use for my processing, and it has some free text images, and the guy don't the informant said just don't, as long as you don't try to submit the data, because it will blow whistles at the NBC if you were to try to submit the data, but
Because you see what I'm getting at, like the
yeah.
meticulous nature of submitting this data. You know, you really have to have some patience. I know.
It takes some patience, but it's not. I think it's easy. It's easy. I think it's a little bit. I can send a link to the. Here's a link to the actual image processing software I use. It has 100-day free trial, where you can go and it has text images, and also has the config files, and you do. And if somebody really wants to get into it, I will hand them. I'll hand them some of the images I use in the config files. As long as you promise you won't try submitting the data, as long as you give that solemn word that you will not submit data on the images.
I don't know. That sounds like a great way to rediscover Jupiter to me. You could get full credit for that, Stephen. That's a feather in your cap.
Probably what I'll have to do and what I'll do is I will integrate the data file, the orbit file, to the date of the observation of the data. So that way you have, because over time it changes. If you use a new orbit file for old data, the boxes won't be in. And so that way you can, because if somebody really wants to learn how to do it, and I always recommend before you actually submit something, of course, let me just go, I can give you another page, another link that it's heavy reading, but it is a good, it's the NBC's on how to do it page. It's heavy reading, and they seem to have a lot of procedures, like you follow, like you don't reuse you observer destinations. You use it once and you never use it again. But if you look at the isolated track file, which is a file which is what me and the state talk about, with that sort of mind, you put, it has a bunch of observations that were never linked to some, but sometimes you come across some where somebody reuse the same user observation again, the destinations. And when you try, and it really throws a wrench into the matching procedure. So you always have to be willing to follow the rules. This is not like cooking. This is not cooking A to Z. This is you always have to, as long as you follow the rules, you think for the rules logically. But I just also put the NPC's how to. There's somebody I really like more people to be able to submit data. And it's always I say it's good to know what you're doing and submit data. So let's suppose one night you never submitted data and you happen to work on find an unknown comet, or you think you found a comet, and you only took one image that night. And no, it's one of the things that you don't know is like, oh, I think I found, and you're looking at around Altair, Mysore. You're looking at Mysore and you find something like, hey, what's this? It's like, you don't have the data, so you'll be kicking yourself for a long time. I should have. So if you know how it's done, you can do it whenever you do other stuff. You can be doing it right just in case serendipity shows up and says, hi, I'm here. As I say, it's good to at least go for the process. Either you never submit. Well, I say, boy, what you should do is maybe submit with enough data. Get the test the data before you submit it, but get some good data and submit it where you are a known entity. So if you ever find something, I don't think it's getting more and more real that's going to happen, but if ever, let's suppose they all the observatories had to shut down for about a month for some awful reason, and it's just the amateurs doing, and you just happen to find something you want to be able to get the credit. So that's what
I've told you guys the Hubble variable story, right? But we still don't let that guy live it down.
No.
He sent out an email. He's like, I think I found a comet. Can you guys look? And it was Hubble's variable.
Did you ever send him Stroop's variable just to say, hey, check this out for me?
It happened. Once it happened at the Deep South Research Showcase in 1987. It happened around 87. And matter of fact, David Levy had a piece on, I think you can find the web, it says, you think you discover a comet. It's just what they do. It's kind of outdated. And it goes through all the checklists what you do. And one of the things is, if it has a tail and it's kind of like bright, check to make sure it's not Hubble's variable nebula. So there's several people who've reported it.
Yeah, to be fair, the first time that I was trying to image the Christmas tree nebula, I believe that's the one that's right next to it. I saw that little Hubble variable. It's like, oh, cool, it's a comet, and I actually had to go look up what the Hubble variable was. And yeah, so it's an easy mistake to make, especially when you're looking at an image of it. Really, really cool. And I've since learned that you should probably go. If I really, really was a smart fellow, I would take my time and try and image the Hubble variable every year so I can make one of those cool animations of it. Or, once every couple of months so that I could watch the thing twirling around and around, which would be really a lot of fun. Okay, so Steven's given some great ideas on how to get started with all this and things not to do, definitely. And he's even offered his services if anybody wanted to actually go play around with it and try it out, as long as we didn't defame him in the process.
But all what I say is download this before you do it. Make sure you block out some time. There's 100 days to use it. Run through the software. I'll be happy to give on the promise not to use it, but you always want to check your settings, the time settings. Check the time settings. Check the time and check. And before you even dream of submitting it, test the observations in Fine Warp. You test the you put the known observations and you put it in Notepad, and then you put your Fine Warp observations and you paste them together and you put them in. You'll see what quality is. And the known object, the residuals should be really good. And if the residuals are off, you have the time settings wrong, you have the MPC code wrong, or if they're really bad, you have the wrong object. And you don't want you. And another thing, when you read the minor planets how to, one thing they say is if there's if there's any doubt what it is, use a usual assigned destination, which is it'll be something like this. Yes, it's something I use.
But all right, which is great stuff, and we'll get to it. Okay, so
in the chat,
we'll go ahead and like to thank Steven for his talk, so that we'll move on to conclude the rest of the meeting. And if anybody else has some individual questions, we'll make sure that Steven's email is, or some way of contacting Steven, probably his home address and phone number, maybe his phone number at work too, goes up live on the website with this this video. And we'll go ahead and put that in a couple of different places as well, so that everybody can see it. But anyway, thank you so much for talking, Steven. I know we're talking about keeping people, how much I enjoyed joking about how much I enjoyed keeping people super late at the start of the broadcast tonight. And unfortunately, it has to be me doing it, not you doing it. So because otherwise it's not the same thrill. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll stop the live stream now, and we'll go ahead and conclude up our meeting. But thank everybody at home for dropping by and following along with us as we listen to Steven tell us what he's been up to with his tracking of asteroids and near-Earth objects, and his latest project with the meteor cam, which he has now set up, which is the first in Louisiana he may not have had time to mention. But thank you so much. We hope to speak with y'all or see y'all again